and I'm still here in lovely Oxford, UK, enjoying the atmosphere. Oxford is known as one of the world's most well-known centers of learning, and a lot of famous people have studied here. Kings, queens, politicians, scientists, and you know, the list of authors and novelists alone is incredible. So this is the Blackwells of Oxford, and it's a really classic and famous bookstore, and it's quite old. It's about 140 years old. So like I told you, many authors were actually from Oxford. So I'm gonna go in and get some books. I got some really good books by authors from Oxford, so let's go and take a look at them. I have to show you what I got. I got some great books, and if you like to read, you may have heard of some of them. So I got this one, which is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, and he wrote The Hobbit. He also wrote The Lord of the Rings, and he used to live here in Oxford. He studied here. He also worked as an English professor and spent most of his life here. C.S. Lewis, who wrote The Chronicles of Narnia, was actually friends with J.R.R. Tolkien, and he also lived and studied here in Oxford. T.S. Eliot was American, and he moved here to Oxford on a scholarship, and he actually ended up staying and became a British citizen. William Golding is most famous for Lord of the Flies, and he studied here in Oxford as well and studied biology, but then changed to literature, and we all know where that ended. Graham Greene is considered one of the greatest authors in the English language, and he's written many books. I bought Brighton Rock, and he also studied here in Oxford. Oscar Wilde studied at Modeling College, which we saw a couple of weeks ago, and he wrote plays and poetry, and also this novel that I got, which is The Picture of Dorian Gray. Evelyn Waugh wrote The Brideshead Revisited, and he also studied here in Oxford, but he actually left before he completed his degree. Dorothy Sayers was a crime mystery writer, and she went to college here in Oxford, and she was actually one of the first women to get a degree at Oxford University, because before then, women were not allowed to get degrees. And I got one of her crime novels, The Nine Tailors. Monica Ali was born in Bangladesh, but her and her family moved to Britain, and she studied here at Oxford. Her book, Brick Lane, is a really famous book. It's about Bangladesh immigrants in Britain, and it became a huge success worldwide. Oh, and most importantly, an author and a book that I really personally love, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. And this is a book that I personally loved when I was a child, and I read it. I still like it to this day, and we're gonna learn more about what inspired the story. At the end of this video, you will have a chance to win any of these books, so keep watching. Lewis Carroll wrote the beautiful fairy tale of Alice in 1865. That's when he published the first book, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and then came the sequel, Through the Looking Glass. And when I was a kid, I absolutely loved the book. I also loved the Disney movie that you might have seen. It's one of the most famous Alice movies. And another one that is probably the most famous one is the Hollywood blockbuster movie featuring actors like Johnny Depp, Anne Hathaway, Helena Bonham Carter. And they actually made a second movie, which is Alice Through the Looking Glass, and that movie also features the actor Sacha Baron Cohen. Actually, they've made 40 different films. Today we're gonna walk in the footsteps of Alice in Wonderland because, believe it or not, she was actually a real person. Her name was Alice Liddell. She was a little girl, and she lived right here at the Christ Church College. So I thought today, why don't we just go in and walk around and explore a little bit. So right now we're at Christ Church College, and this is where Alice Liddell, the real Alice, lived with her family, her mom and dad, because her dad was the dean of the college. And the dean is basically like the principal of the school. And they lived over on that side in the deanery. So she lived here from when she was 3 years old until she got married. So this is the Cathedral garden. and on the other side there's another garden, which is where Alice, the real Alice, actually lived with her family, and where Lewis Carroll took his inspiration from for Alice in Wonderland. And especially there's a chestnut tree there where the Cheshire Cat lived. So this is the college library where Lewis Carroll actually worked as a librarian, and this is also where he met the Liddell family for the first time. So Alice, her mom and dad, and her siblings. Alice and her family were really close with Lewis Carroll, and he would always play games with the children and tell them lots of stories, and he would also take them on boat rides on the Thames River. And one time when Alice was 10 years old, Lewis Carroll took her and her two sisters on a boat ride. And there he told the fantastic story about Alice in Wonderland, and the kids loved it. So Alice begged him to write down the story, which he did. He wrote it down and gave her a handwritten copy with his handwritten illustrations as well. And everybody who read it just loved it. And so did the publishers. So much that they published the book with illustrations by John Tenniel, and the book became a huge success all over the world. And today it's a classic. So many places here in Oxford and people of the time that inspired Lewis Carroll to write the story about Alice in Wonderland. One of them is, of course, Alice, who was inspired by Alice Liddell, and there's also her two sisters who were on the boat ride that day when he wrote the story. One of them is featured as the lory, which is a small parrot, and the other one is featured as the eaglet, an eagle. And the author himself is also has a character in the book, which is the dodo, because his real name was Charles Dodgson, and sometimes he would stutter and he would pronounce his last name like Dodgson. So there is the dodo. So I've come to the Alice shop, which is an old shop that I really wanted to show you. It's been around for so many years, and even Alice Liddell as a child used to come in here and buy candy because she lived right opposite of it at the Christ Church College. So this has, again, been around for so many years, and it was even featured in the Through the Looking Glass sequel about Alice, and it was called The Old Sheep Shop, where Alice went in and a lot of strange things happened to her. So I want to go in and get something special. You'll see. I've transformed into Alice. So I think this tour of Alice in Wonderland has peaked, and I'm gonna end while I'm dressed like this. Today's competition is actually 10 times bigger than normal, which means that there are 10 prizes for you to win. So you can win the books by the Oxford authors that I've bought. So the question for you to answer is, who is your favorite Oxford author and why? Please comment below for a chance to win your book by your favorite author. And this is going to be my last episode here in Oxford, but On the Go with EF is going to be back in 2 weeks, so don't forget to watch. See you then. Bye.